The Bulls are in a very weird state right now. And it's in a weird state because with the amount of players that we have on the team that is very talented, and DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine, you'd expect us to be a little bit better than where we're at right now. We have historically, with this team, have not been very, very good, barely even a play-in team. So that begs the question, why is that? Now, there are many reasons why we just don't fit as a team. Most of it really comes down to Lonzo Ball and not getting an effective point guard that can be able to spread the offense around and make sure that everybody gets their touches and whatnot and keep the ball movement smooth, and our lack of change for that reason. And so the problem continues where Zach LaVine has to be the prolific scorer, and then also same with DeMar DeRozan has to be the prolific scorer that he is, and really that doesn't leave much else for everybody else, especially with the fact that they have limited ball movement. If you see any Bulls games, they almost always have two players, one in each corner, and try to run like a nice little pick and roll three-man game up top. And for the most part, it can work, but when you don't have consistent shooters like any other team, it can be very tough and can be very limiting with the fact that players can help off that corner. Now, like I said, we do have DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine, so that can help mitigate the problems that we have on offense. But defense, we're always going to struggle. But what's really concerning with the Bulls is not the fact that they are, ranked ninth and have 18 wins with 21 losses. It's the fact that there's really no future for the Bulls. We don't know if Zach LaVine's going to stay with the team after this year, and most likely he will not, which will be a good thing because we could probably get some picks for him. DeMar DeRozan might leave, and honestly, he should, because he deserves the championship as well, and he's not going to get it with the Bulls. Even though he's a grind type of player, he likes sticking out with, teams like the Spurs and Toronto Raptors. He's that type of player that he doesn't really run away from, the tough times. But I do believe it is around this time where he doesn't really have that much of a window left. But what if I tell you that the future of the Bulls is in neither of those two, is not even in Vucevic, is in a person with a big afro, and that is Coby White. Now, if you're a Bulls fan, you've seen the development of Coby White being a little bit rocky. It hasn't been a steady stream of progress, a steady flow of just stacking up wins together and making sure that the player gets better each and every year. For a lot of the times, for many years of his career, he's been really stagnant. He kind of got up to a really good foot, averaging around like 10, 13 points a game. And then, it kind of just stuck. It kind of just stopped right then and there, which influenced the Bulls to draft another guard where, now a lot of people are saying, okay, well, now who's the future of the team? Is it going to be Io or is it going to be Coby White? And Io is a good player. I do believe that you do need to give people a lot more time than what we are accustomed to. I think if you give players, 2-3 years, it's going to be difficult for them to make anything out of it. I think the average time you should give players is around 5. But right now we're seeing that the front runner of who's going to be the Bulls' future is definitely Coby White, because Coby White is having the best season that he's ever had in his career so far. Right now he's averaging around 18 points on 44% field goal percentage and 40% of three. I feel like a lot of players in the league right now is averaging a very high three-point percentage. And I think that might be hinting towards the fact that the league is taking more three-point shots, but also if you're going to take more three-point shots, you have to make more three-point shots. And Coby White is doing that. And a lot of the games that he's playing, he's hitting a lot of tough shots, especially shots where you have to, create for yourself, create off the dribble, not just, a catch and shoot. And he's doing great off the catch and shoot. But one of the issues that we've had, especially as Bulls fans, is seeing that Coby White's not necessarily a, traditional point guard, right? So he's playing more like a two guard. He's playing more like a shooting guard where you want him to get points. And so anybody else who can handle the ball can handle the ball, which is why the Bulls have this problem of there is really no point guard for the team like Lonzo. But I digress. Coby White is still the future of the team because he is showing great improvement and great progress. Now, the Bulls has never been really known to develop players. And I know that sounds crazy when you have the likes of Derrick Rose on your team, but you just have to look at the organization in its totality. We are not that great when it comes to developing players. We typically almost always ship them out before they even get good, i.e. a Lauri Markkanen. And that was going to be the case for Coby White, where Coby White was not really showing a lot of promise. And then he slowly kind of got there. I think Billy Donovan has done like a really good job in developing both Io and Coby White, even though Io is not necessarily there yet. And maybe the team is not even there for both of these players to even get handed the keys yet. But I think with the amount of progress that they have shown so far, and Coby White being a little bit more consistent of a shooter, not turning the ball over as many times as he used to, and also being able to kind of be more efficient in the offense. Shooting 44% from the field is definitely something that is something remarkable to even point out, especially coming from a person who has not been that great in his career. I mean, averaging 13 points is still really good, but with the amount of hope that we had for Coby White, we really wanted him to see where he's at right now. And with the Bulls being in such a limbo position, like I said, we don't know if Zach LaVine's going to stay. He's most likely not. He's probably going to get shipped out to the Lakers, as many people has prophesied. DeMar DeRozan is in a weird spot because I don't really know where he's going to go nor where he's going to fit. His game is very interesting in the sense that because he doesn't take a lot of three-point shots, he's very similar to, let's say, a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You need to have a team built specifically around him with a bunch of three-point shooters. And you have to kind of like let him rock around the mid-range. And, the mid-range is not necessarily the most efficient shot, but there are some players who make that their bread and butter, and that is DeMar DeRozan. That is his shot. But there's not many teams that are willing to sacrifice that much, especially for an aging player, to make a team centered around him shooting mid-range shots. So I'm saying that all to say that I don't really know where DeMar DeRozan is going to head off after this. I mean, he's probably only got 1 year left. It's probably his last year, if we're going to be honest, along with Zach LaVine. And so we're going to get a lot, hopefully, a lot in return for our top players, which will then give a lot more room and growth for Coby White to play as a player. Now, there is a few concerning things when you're thinking about how Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan will not be on the team next year. And that comes down to scheme. How will you scheme around Coby White? We don't really know how you want to do that so far, whether or not he's even that person to scheme a team around. We don't really know. And when a team schemes around a player offensively and, of course, defensively, you have to also recognize the fact that other teams will recognize that, hey, he's their number one scoring option. And if he's their number one scoring option and he's not ready to be that number one scoring option, you're going to have situations like Jordan Poole, where Jordan Poole is on a team where he's, necessarily probably not the number one, but probably like 1B to the 1A of Kyle Kuzma, where he is expected to do a lot for that team, where it just simply has not been best outcome for either of those players, as the Washington Wizards are playing absolutely horrific. And so I worry about that for Coby White in the sense that it might be too early for him to get that much of a load on his shoulders in order for him to carry a franchise. This is not like a Wemby in the sense that Wemby is a once in a generational talent, and I believe that Wemby can, at least right now, maybe even next season, will be a good start for him to kind of carry the team on his back and be the number one option, as they're trying to slowly implement him to be the number one option now after many months of just not passing the ball in the most advantageous positions. But I digress. Coby White might not be that type of player right now yet, but maybe with a couple years, maybe even if you try to keep DeMar DeRozan, because there's really not that much of a fit for DeMar DeRozan anywhere else, then he'll be able to kind of like help him, guide him to become the player that Coby White, I believe, is destined to be. And even though the Bulls aren't necessarily a great team right now, I mean, they're 8, they might make a nice little playoff push to maybe second round at best. I still believe that there's a lot of promise in the future. We're going to get a lot of picks. We're going to get a lot of money from, selling off Vucevic, because I don't think Vucevic is going to stay on the team for much longer. Zach LaVine is definitely not going to stay on the team for much longer, in my opinion. The only person who might be able to stay on the team, like I said, is DeMar DeRozan. And even then, it's even how long. But even with all those question marks on the team, we do know one thing for certain, and that is Coby White is a dog, right? Give him the time in the day, instill the amount of confidence that you put in any other superstar, and Coby White will get it. He has shown for this year at least that he can be one of those top players on a team, even if he's not the number one or even number two, and sometimes really not even number 3 option to score. He is doing it off of the backs of everybody else who's supposed to be the leaders of the team, people who are supposed to lift up the offense. And for the most part, they are kind of doing it right now, so that's pretty good. Even though in the beginning of the season, where they were pretty struggling after the first game, they had to call in a players-only meeting so that they can talk about why they suck so bad and why we haven't gotten better over the summer. But right now, if I have to call a spade, the Bulls are playing way better than they started out the season in. And I think part of the reason why is because we have Coby White, who is emerging to be a pretty good star. Not a superstar, but a pretty good star so far. And if he continues on this path, he's definitely going to be the player for the Bulls in the future.